Li Dam, a young woman, was helping her drunk friend home when she tripped and fell. Her friend abruptly stood up and ran away. Li Dam chased her friend and discovered her vomiting on a car. When she saw the car logo, she froze for a moment. She took a slow look at the man next to the car and bent down to apologize. She promised to compensate him, but the man simply said it was fine. Li Dam hadn't expected such kindness from a stranger. Li Dam attempted to leave with her friend, but her friend pushed her away. The man drew Li Dam away, but she instinctively touched his chest. The man vomited a red pearl, which accidentally fell into Li Dam's mouth. She fainted due to the strange taste. When Li Dam awoke, she thought the place was strange. The man clenched his chin and stared at her intently. Li Dam, embarrassed, asked why she was there. The man claimed he found her unconscious and returned her because he wanted something back. She had swallowed the pearl, which he had cultivated for over 900 years. Li Dam didn't understand and inquired whether the pearl was antique. He claimed that he was a fox. Li Dam slowly backed away, wondering why she had the misfortune to meet a psychopath. She was about to pull out her phone when a nine-tailed fox appeared in front of her. This image caused Li Dam to faint again. When she awoke, she was terrified to see the familiar face. The fox knew she'd be scared, so he offered to go get her a cup of tea. Li Dam relaxed, but she was still aware she was entering the nine-tailed fox's den. The nine-tailed fox asked if she wanted some sugar, but Li Dam couldn't see him anymore. Li Dam assumed she'd be fine after escaping the fox, but she didn't expect her fat friend to tease her and make her uncomfortable. The fat boy did not understand, and he clearly did not use force. He wanted to help her up, but an electric current rushed through her body. The fox seemed to sense that something was wrong. Li Dam had to take the initiative to find him and inquire whether her discomfort was related to the pearl. The fox assured her that there was nothing wrong with the pearl. It was just that she couldn't come into contact with men born in the year of the tiger because tigers and foxes are mortal enemies. If she touches a man born in the year of the tiger, she will clash with the Jade fox within her. Li Dam inquired whether she needed to take painkillers when she was in pain. The fox slowly reached out and assured her that as long as she made contact, the pain would go away. Li Dam's mood improved significantly, but the red pearl unexpectedly turned blue. She wanted to go to the hospital and have it cut open and removed so she could give it back to him, but the fox said there was nothing in her stomach because it was already in the pelvic position. Li Dam wasn't sure what to do. The fox explained that they can now only live together. Despite the strangeness of their first meeting, he valued this gem highly. To get rid of the Jade fox and survive, she must live with it. Li Dam carried her suitcase at night and asked the store owner if they had an electric baton. The shopkeeper took out an electric baton and demonstrated its effects. Li Dam was very pleased when she saw it. When she found out it would cost 12,000 won, she froze. The shop owner realized the price was high, so she pulled out a mini spray bottle and claimed it was more effective and only cost 7,000 won. Li Dam immediately replied that she would take the spray bottle. Right now, the television is showing recent missing person cases. Li Dam felt scared just looking at it. The boss kept reminding her that these guys most likely wanted to take their organs. When Li Dam heard that, she stammered and asked for the electric baton. She purchased these items not to deal with humans, but with foxes that are over 900 years old. Late at night, Li Dam reluctantly carried her luggage into the fox's home. The fox was upstairs, observing her, and he was curious why the red jade had changed color after 900 years. Li Dam slowly moved her luggage into the yard, looking into the eyes of the nine-tailed fox inside the house. She couldn't help but be scared. She silently cursed his ancestors going back 18 generations. Suddenly, the fox appeared in front of her and assisted her with her luggage. Li Dam consoled herself and entered. When the fox arrived at the house, he assisted her in arranging the room. Just as she was about to hide in the room, the fox called her back. After all, it was the first time they met, and he still didn't know her name. She introduced herself as Li Dam. She wanted to go back to her room right away after saying that, but she was careless and dropped the pepper spray instead. Li Dam quickly explained that it was a gift for him. She also stated that she was in a hurry and did not have time to pack it. She hoped he would enjoy it. The fox pretended to try it. It was a nice gift. Li Dam was lying on the bed with no defense weapon. She was extremely nervous and assumed she wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. But, unexpectedly, she slept until the morning. She didn't expect the fox to prepare a refrigerator full of food for her. To make amends, the fox agreed to help her pay for all of her study expenses. When Li Dam received the reward, she was overjoyed and forgot about her current situation. For the first time in his life, a man over 900 years old lived with a girl. The next second, he transformed into an old man and informed Li Dam that he needed to use this identity to travel to France for a 2-day business trip. If she was uncomfortable, she could call him. Li Dam immediately waved her hand and stated that she was completely comfortable. She assured him that he could proceed with his business. Li Dam was summoned by her friends at night, but she was well aware that meeting people born in the year of the tiger would change her forever. She would not be fine, so she had to leave quickly. Suddenly, the phone in her hand dropped and was picked up by someone else. But the other person possessed a provocative attitude. Li Dam took it very seriously and continued to pick up the phone and leave. However, the man then took the initiative to hug her, causing Li Dam's stomach to ache immediately. It was obvious that this man was born in the year of the tiger. But she was so in pain that she couldn't speak. The man assumed she would agree to accompany him, so he quickly took her away, walking to an alley. Li Dam's face grew increasingly ugly. The man comforting her in front had to wait a little longer for a hotel. He would help her wake up, but she had run out of strength. She hoped that someone could save her. Li Dam was feeling extremely helpless at the moment. The fox suddenly appeared in front of Li Dam. He hugged Li Dam and attempted to take her away, but was stopped by the man. Clearly, he was unaware that the man in front of him was a 900-year-old fox. The fox slapped him and sent him flying 10 meters away. Following this incident, the two people seemed to be closer together. Li Dam knew he did it to protect the fox gem in her body, so she inquired whether the fox gem could be removed. The fox explained that humans can only withstand the fox jade for a year. Li Dam wondered, what if she couldn't get it out? The fox came to a halt and warned her that she would die. Knowing how long she would live, she decided to eat delicious foods she had never tried before. At this point, the fox at home checked the time. It was 11 p.m. He was slightly concerned about Li Dam. He was unaware that Li Dam had consumed an excessive amount of food and alcohol at the time. Li Dam fell because she was too drunk to walk steadily. When she attempted to stand up, she noticed a red pearl in front of her. She vomited the pearl. She ran home as quickly as she could, a serious expression on her face, repeating what she had just done. Then she extended her hand and said, "I won't die." The fox looked at Li Dam and wondered why she was holding the candy. Li Dam was disappointed. Suddenly, the fox noticed something was wrong with Li Dam. She was about to vomit, but according to his vision, could she have planned to do so in that antique vase? Li Dam dashed towards the pile of antiques the very next second. The fox waved his hand, and the antiques flew up. The fox immediately opened the bathroom door for her, recognizing that she wanted to rush into other things, but had clearly failed. Li Dam relaxed, gazing at the pile of antiques floating in the fox's house. He couldn't help sighing. Li Dam, too, felt out of place at the time. She could have accepted her fate, but as soon as she arrived at school, she noticed a group of older boys standing in front of her. Her mind immediately became chaotic. She quickly walked past the boys. A group of people rushed towards the cafeteria and bumped into her just as she was breathing a sigh of relief. But, thankfully, someone caught her. Li Dam inquired if he was one grade above her. "Isn't he the same age as the tiger?" The senior explained that because his birthday fell early, he was born in the year of the cat. Li Dam immediately said, "Very lucky." When the senior learned that he was born in the year of cats, he became extremely embarrassed. This path was not easy. Li Dam knew that if her life was short, she couldn't afford to be in pain. Suddenly, she received a call. Li Dam quickly realized that this was the school's hot boy, who was also her senior in the year of the tiger. However, the senior simply reminded her that she had dropped her shirt and even assisted her in picking it up. Li Dam couldn't say anything because she was terrified as he approached her. She immediately instructed him to place the shirt on the ground. Li Dam then carefully bent down to retrieve it. She was afraid of what he would do to her if she picked it up. She ran away after putting on the shirt and saying thank you. The male student stood dumbfounded, unable to believe his eyes. He was not only a wealthy man, but he was also known as the school's hot boy wherever he went. Girls welcomed him, but why did that girl avoid him, as if he was evil? This inevitably sparked his interest in this strange girl. Knowing the other person was a fox, Li Dam began negotiating with him. If he couldn't take out his fox Jade temporarily, he had to keep her safe at all times, as well as the fox Jade. Furthermore, he cannot give her a cold look. It consistently puts her in a bad mood. The two people quickly came to an agreement. Li Dam thought she had made a good deal, but she was unaware of the fox's cunning nature. Indeed, the next day, he went to his 900-year-old fox friend and told her about the human girl who had eaten his jade. The 900-year-old red jade turned blue when his friend heard it. She said it was a good thing, but the fox said he couldn't love a little girl. He cannot turn things into a tragedy like 600 years ago. Since swallowing the fox pearl, Lee Dam's entire body has been tense. She only recently discovered that she had been seen by a hot boy from school who lived nearby. Lee Dam did not want to eat, so she said goodbye to her friends. As she stood to leave, she was stopped by a hot boy. Lee Dam's first reaction was to avoid touching people born in the year of the tiger, so she told him to give her space. The hot boy asked her again if they could have a glass of water together. Her best friend noticed this and immediately pulled her back. Why would she want to pass up such an excellent opportunity? The senior asked if she wanted a drink, but she flatly refused. Lee Dam's close friend asked her why she was so tense. When the senior learned her name was Lee Dam, he wanted to use the opportunity to close the gap, but she quickly avoided him. The senior's expression immediately became unhappy. When his close friend noticed this, he immediately helped him overcome his shyness. The senior attempted to place his hand behind his back, but Lee Dam instinctively avoided walking. The senior was very uncomfortable. Fortunately, at this time he received a phone call. However, there is a saying that what you cannot have is the best. Now he was only aiming at Lee Dam. Flowers, however, fall on purpose, whereas water flows unintentionally. He waited until after school to borrow money from Lee Dam and buy drinks. Then he returned, grabbed Lee Dam's phone, and entered his number. He instructed Lee Dam to call him the next time she wanted something to drink. The promise of a second meeting was so clear. He assumed Lee Dam would enjoy it very much. He was intrigued, but he didn't expect her to say she disliked it. The senior, who had never been rejected since he was a child, became interested in Lee Dam. Lee Dam returned home heartbroken and crying. She was healthy for 18 years before becoming infected with a strange disease. She wasn't sure if she'd be able to see the sun again next year. When the fox outside the door saw it, he couldn't help but remember his fellow's question. He clearly knew how to get the jade fox out, so why didn't he do so? The fox came to Lee Dam. He stated, "I want to confirm something." Before Lee Dam could respond, the fox grabbed her hand. He found the answer by examining the red fox and Lee Dam's body. So he told Lee Dam she could return. She should think of everything as a dream. He then grabbed Lee Dam's face and held on tight. He had intended to remove the fox jade from her body, but now he discovered that it had changed color. He quickly stopped taking out the fox jade, but a human like Lee Dam's heart was pounding. The fox wondered if the girl in front of him was the one he had been waiting for 600 years. For the first time in her life, this 18-year-old girl was teased. To be more specific, it was a 900-year-old fox. However, no one believed her because it was her first time and she lacked experience. She asked her best friend. She claimed she had a friend who lived with someone of the opposite sex, but one day that man unexpectedly kissed her. However, the important moment came to an end. They had only known each other for 1 week. However, when she attempted to leave, the man hugged her without saying anything. So the question was what kind of trick the man was pulling. Her best friend insisted it was an expression of love, not realizing that the man she was referring to was now on his mind, full of questions. As soon as his fox friend heard it and was about to take it out, the fox pearl turned blue but quickly returned to red. Why was it not the same as hers? The fox asked her about her current situation. She informed him that her jade fox had instantly changed color because she was now a normal person. And now the fox is unsure whether he wants the jade back. Her friend analyzed for him that this could be his last chance. She had no idea that at the same time, the senior was recalling Lee Dam. The senior wanted to borrow money the last time he met Lee Dam. Lee Dam replied directly that she was not available. The senior was extremely stubborn. He inquired about her current activities. Unexpectedly, Lee Dam responded that she was cleaning the toilet. She also asked if he had any tips for unclogging a toilet. The senior became increasingly interested in Lee Dam. In fact, she was cleaning the toilet. She did not want the fox to see her embarrassed expression. At this point, her senior called to instruct her on how to properly close and flush the toilet. Apply more pressure after you see a bulge in the middle of the bag. She can hear the sound of the flushing bar. She eagerly picked up the phone to thank the senior. She also gave the senior a nickname, the Toilet Fairy. The senior initially thanked her for the nickname. She gave him thanks, and based on the name, he asked Lee Dam to invite him to a meal. Lee Dam agreed immediately after hearing that. The truth reveals that it is impossible to chase girls without some skill. At night, the fox began to make Lee Dam happy. He bought Lee Dam's favorite pizza. He even gently asked Lee Dam if she had enough food. If that wasn't enough, he'd personally go into the kitchen and cook. Lee Dam was confused by his gentleness. At this point, she couldn't help but recall her best friend's words. That man was clearly showing love. Despite her initial response that it was impossible, she took the initiative to ask the fox a word of love. The fox choked and didn't know how to respond. Lee Dam kept asking him like that. What exactly do you mean by last night? The fox explained that he initially wanted to let go and let her go, but he feared that if he did, he would have to deal with everything alone and would be very confused. Lee Dam understood after receiving the answer, so it was considered a matter of passing, but she hoped that in the future he could control himself and avoid ambiguous actions, which would easily lead to misinterpretation. The fox immediately lost his shyness. He explained that he just wanted to see if she was responsible for herself. Lee Dam secretly believed that people don't understand the world of foxes. In fact, the fox was listening to his friend's words when the jade fox in her body changed color. This friend immediately told him to go on a date with Lee Dam. The nine-tailed fox, who had lived for 900 years, did not expect to be rejected. Even more embarrassed by what he had just said, Lee Dam's decision to live alone raised suspicions in his younger brother's mind about his sister's motivations for leaving. So he silently observed her, and the two of them made a new discovery. He overheard his sister refer to the other as the two analysts. They were probably professors now. That's what the young people call them. The fox remained concerned about the jade fox inside Lee Dam. Lee Dam also conveniently touched her stomach and stated that the jade fox had not changed anything recently. Her close friend heard this and suspected she was pregnant. So the two of them concluded that Lee Dam was pregnant. At this point, the fox consoled Lee Dam, stating that she had worked hard because of the jade fox. Lee Dam said it was fine after all. It was just about to go out. When she heard this, her older sister confirmed her pregnancy. He immediately became enraged. Lee Dam could tell everything had been exposed the moment she looked. The younger brother then began questioning the fox. "Do you love my sister?" The fox responded, "No. So at the very least, marry." The fox also said no. The young man, who has lived for 18 years, has never encountered a scoundrel like this before. But his friend can't take it anymore. He only sees this guy with a stick, rushing to attack the fox. But the next second, the fox's glance brought the two of them to a halt in the air. The girl was shocked and terrified, but the fox reassured her. He would transport them home safely and erase their memories. Before Lee Dam could react, the two of them had vanished. Lee Dam was very scared. One was her younger brother, while the other was her best friend. She immediately took out her phone to call him, but it was always set to turn off. She frequently saw her brother's bag still there, but then it vanished. Lee Dam dashed home and discovered her brother bringing a large group of people to the house to play. Her younger brother also asked her what she was doing when she got home. She returned home after realizing her backpack had gone missing. Furthermore, her younger brother had no idea what had just happened. So Lee Dam immediately made an excuse, claiming she was going to get her belongings. Then she left right away, not expecting her younger brother to tell her to hurry after getting her belongings. Lee Dam couldn't help but admire the fox's power as she left the house. The fox had no idea that his friend was mocking him right now. Even a girl cannot handle living for 900 years, because, as a fellow, she immediately taught him a few 21st century tricks. We can no longer rely on sweet words, but rather on practical actions. Frankly, having to fulfill all of her requests made him wonder what she was thinking and worrying about. However, when Lee Dam returned, she proactively stated that she had something to ask him. The fox reflected that his opportunity had arrived. But the next moment, Lee Dam's offer of assistance caught him off guard. This senior is an excellent stalker. He always appears in front of Lee Dam during a 12-hour day. He can appear in front of her at least 20 times. The rest of the time, he sends messages requesting a date. Lee Dam understands how thick-skinned this young man is, and she can't help but wonder if she was like this back then. She had no idea that the seniors were only doing it because they had made a bet with their friends. This girl couldn't do anything against the school's hot boy. He could have Lee Dam simply to demonstrate his capability. They bet $100,000. Lee Dam couldn't tolerate the senior's thick skin. She began talking to the fox. She spoke of her situation in a hoarse voice. The fox learned that Lee Dam's goal was to disappoint the seniors and, more importantly, to avoid getting too close to her. The two of them began pretending to date in order to learn which aspect of Lee Dam was most despised by others. But this appearance caused Lee Dam's mouth to open wide. The fox immediately began assisting her in analyzing her clothing. Wearing a t-shirt with a dog image last time looked a little out of style, but it worked. Lee Dam believed this was a good idea. Then he taught her how to eat extravagantly, so that the other person became bored and despised her, claiming that the last time he saw her eating black bean noodles with her mouth full, it was the type that made others dislike her. The longer Lee Dam listened, the more annoyed she became. But the unsettled fox continued to speak enthusiastically. And there was that time he overheard her talking dirty to her friends on the phone. If she said it in front of the seniors, she could save half her time. Lee Dam felt relieved after listening that she no longer needed to exert so much effort. It's okay to be her every day. Just as they were about to leave, the senior called back. But as soon as she answered the phone, she noticed that the other end was extremely noisy. 2 seconds later, the senior appeared behind her. The fox swiftly drew Lee Dam back. This made Lee Dam's heart race inexplicably. Then she immediately distanced herself from the fox, but the fox's gaze never left the senior. Lee Dam, seeing this, immediately introduced the fox. In any case, she couldn't introduce this person as a fox, so she had to introduce them as someone she had just met. But the senior did not care. He even invited Lee Dam to watch a movie tomorrow. The fox was upset the next day when he discovered this. However, before leaving, the senior touched Lee Dam's head and looked at the fox provocatively. So he left, but Lee Dam was unhappy. This senior was born in the year of the tiger. The fox gave him a look that suggested it wanted to devour him. The date arrived quickly, but the weather was not pleasant. After watching the film, it began to rain. The senior wanted to keep showing off, but he realized his younger brother had taken all of the money from his wallet. So he timidly asked Lee Dam what to do. Lee Dam motioned for others to follow her. It would definitely transport him home. However, this reduced all of her previous ugly behavior to zero. The senior had a strange feeling in his heart. This wealthy man had never taken a bus. The first time he rode a bus. Lee Dam couldn't help but be happy after seeing the senior off today. She flaunted a variety of undesirable characteristics. Surely the seniors will despise her. But, unexpectedly, her ugly appearance in the eyes of the seniors changed into a cute one. The girl from 600 years ago attended school for the first time, but forgot to wear her uniform. Suddenly becoming the focus of everyone, her first priority, when she arrived at school, was to make friends with Lee Dam. The girl greeted Lee Dam warmly, but she did not expect her harmony to be that she was constantly staring at Lee Dam, causing the hair on Lee Dam's entire body to stand up. She had not expected to see another person in the distance staring at Lee Dam. That is why she had a fox living with her. When he heard his fox friend express a desire to attend school, he offered to assist her in making the necessary arrangements. But as a cunning fox, she knew what the fox was thinking. Lee Dam was extremely picky about her outfit today. She said she had an appointment tonight, so she arrived home late. On the outside, she appeared indifferent. As soon as Lee Dam left, the fox's thoughts appeared to follow her. But on the first day, the fox girl arrived at school. The professor provided a practical experience, 2 people per team, completing the love theme this weekend. Following that, each person wrote their thesis report. But the group list was ready. The boy noticed an unfamiliar name. Could it be a new friend? He only saw the fox girl cheerfully greeting him. Then Lee Dam had his turn. She unexpectedly found herself in the same group as the senior. She appeared to believe that the road to the underworld was not far. But when the senior saw that, he was overjoyed. As expected, God assisted her. However, on the morning of the date, Lee Dam felt sick to her stomach. She opened her phone's calendar and discovered that she was due to have her period today. So she told the fox she didn't have any strength today and returned to her room first. The fox inquired as to what would happen if she was sick. Lee Dam was too tired to explain, so she returned to her room to relax. Then the fox spent the entire morning reading books. However, he did not turn any pages of the book. He kept looking at the clock. He couldn't hold back any longer and dashed into her room. He asked if she wanted to buy some medication. The fox was concerned about Lee Dam's weak reaction and asked if she had a fever. Lee Dam looked at him while menstruating. It would not be cured by taking medication. The fox appeared to understand immediately. He stated that he would go prepare warm water for her. Then he dashed out of the room, having indeed prepared a table of delectable food for her. This tactic appeared to be effective. After eating, Lee Dam's stomach felt much better. Many symptoms can be treated, but the underlying cause cannot be cured. However, when she awoke, it was already morning. She reminded herself that the day of strawberry loss would not go away immediately. She'd have to wait several days. Suddenly, she considered pulling her menstruating body and touching someone born in the year of the tiger. Then that day would undoubtedly mark her death anniversary. But today is a Sunday. There's no other way. The love course that the professor assigned must be completed. The fox asked Lee Dam where she was going. She helplessly stated that she needed to complete the love course with the senior born in the year of the tiger. Seeing Lee Dam's frail condition, the fox couldn't bear to let her go. He then called Lee Dam back. He explained, "I have a way to help you without having to go out personally." Lee Dam asked if that was okay. She only saw the fox take on Lee Dam's appearance. He reassured Lee Dam that he would date her instead. He advised her to rest comfortably at home. But didn't she realize that while appearances can be manipulated, temperaments cannot? Lee Dam arrived at the agreed-upon meeting location. But why was he constantly seeing strange things? As with many other couples, the first thing they do on a date is eat. But a fox is always courteous. This action makes the senior appear more and more confused. Despite the fact that she appears gentle and beautiful, it does not look right to him. The female fox is on a date with Jade. She was planning to go to the movies to finish her course. Suddenly, she noticed Lee Dam and the senior at the cinema door. When Jade saw Lee Dam, he was ecstatic. He then rushed towards Lee Dam as usual. However, the female fox was not far away. As soon as she looked, she realized it was not Lee Dam. This is the first time this has happened to the fox who lived 900 years ago. The female fox next to her simply stood there, enjoying the show. This was the fox's first time picking up Lee Dam after school. He was careful not to forget to spread the cushion for her in case she became cold while sitting on it. Everything was completed, and all that remained was to wait for the main character. Soon, someone knocked on his car door. The fox assumed Lee Dam had arrived, but did not realize it was his friend. She walked right in and sat down, without saying anything polite. She even used the towel that he had prepared. Looking at the fox's expression, the fox girl deduced that she was not the one he came to pick up. So, she reminded the fox, if nine-tailed foxes like them are shaken, they will never die peacefully. They will not have time to cry if they ruin important events due to personal feelings. Lee Dam is not far away, walking towards the car. The fox saw this and told her to stop wasting words and get out of the car. The female fox appeared agitated and stated that she refused. But she noticed Lee Dam getting closer and closer. The female fox was still sitting in her disguise. Lee Dam opened the door, and there was no trace of the fox girl inside. The fox girl was still near her makeup when he took her to the hotel. But as she turned around, she noticed her outside. That made her very embarrassed. She hadn't expected the fox to do that to her. But when Lee Dam, with a radiant face, entered the fox's car, her best friend noticed him. Her best friend, Jade, was also present, upset. Even if Lee Dam took the initiative to approach him, he didn't mind. He even claimed she had no morals. He told her everything, from how she wasn't afraid of losing face to the story about her friend's friend. Her ex-girlfriend also informed her, but she did not consider him a friend. He said a half sentence, and then left. Following that, he ignored her for several days. Lee Dam came home and couldn't take it anymore. She was going to call Jade. She said she'd explain everything clearly. Once, her friend abruptly hung up on her. Lee Dam was enraged and shouted so loudly that the fox outside was startled slightly. Then he appeared in his original form. He used the opportunity to ask Lee Dam if the jade fox in her stomach was making her uncomfortable. When Lee Dam brought up this issue, he naturally complained. She asked him to find a way to get the jade fox out. Lee Dam stared at the fox without saying anything, wondering why he hadn't found it yet. The fox replied, "Yes, I haven't found it yet." He was obviously lying. There was a way, but he didn't mention it right away. Jade was also extremely upset at this point. He overheard a classmate next to him say that this time the senior had suffered a significant loss, who asked him to brag. They also claimed that people like Lee Dam are easy to fool. He now admitted defeat and voluntarily gave up $100,000. Hearing that, Jade couldn't take it anymore. So he approached the senior and unceremoniously grabbed his shirt. Then he wondered if the senior had tricked Lee Dam into a bet with the others. The senior's response clearly reflected this. He gave up. He didn't want to tell Lee Dam, but Jade said, "I won't tell Lee Dam. You don't want Lee Dam to be sad." Lee Dam, however, is not deaf. After such a big movement, the senior adores Lee Dam. He prefers to keep Lee Dam. Lee Dam tells him not to waste his thoughts. Consider this a joke. The senior sincerely apologizes and wishes she would not be angry. At this point, two close friends arrived to find her. Their eyes were filled with hostility for the senior. Then they dragged Lee Dam away. But this is wave after wave. There has recently been a lot of news about people going missing on a regular basis. When they were discovered, their internal organs had been removed. The fox girl observed something unusual. So she immediately contacted the fox to explain that the recent cases were not caused by humans. The fox hung up the phone and felt bad. The fox read a book at night and neglected to close the window curtains, only to find that a cat outside was staring at him. However, when Lee Dam returned, she did not have the habit of closing the curtain. She had no idea she was being targeted by the cat outside. The fox suddenly had a premonition. The cat realized it was in danger and fled immediately. But as time went on, it developed into a person. When the fox chased out the mysterious person, he vanished. So he thought about what the female fox had told him. The people who went missing recently had their organs removed. It was most likely not done by humans. So, the next day, when Lee Dam went to school, the fox girl clung to her and refused to let go, even when she went to class. The fox girl's gaze remained fixed on Lee Dam. Lee Dam had no idea whether the fox girl had drunk the wrong medicine or not. She wasn't sure if the female fox had been asked for assistance by someone else. This 600-year-old fox opened his mouth for the first time thanks to her. The female fox secretly wondered if an old man like him had ever opened his mouth to ask for her help. So, reluctantly, she stated that she would do her best to protect Lee Dam. However, the level of dedication she expressed was a little excessive. She only saw a hand suddenly reach for Lee Dam. The fox girl looked at it and then took that hand. Jean screamed with pain. Lee Dam felt increasingly strange. However, the strangest thing remained behind. She visited the library alone to borrow books. As soon as she turned around, she ran into someone. He took the initiative to pick up the book for her. But then the man said, "Be careful." Those 3 words scared Lee Dam. Suddenly, the fox called from behind. He inquired about her current activities. Lee Dam just mentioned that she ran into someone. In the blink of an eye, that person vanished. She thought it was unimportant, so she didn't pay much attention. She didn't expect them to meet again later. But when Lee Dam passed by a flower shop, she noticed the girl inside. This brought to mind a fox portrait she had seen in a book. The fox also confessed that this was his first love. Lee Dam was a little jealous, despite the fact that it was an ex from 500 years ago. However, when she saw someone who looked exactly like the person in the painting, she became concerned. At that point, the fox appeared. When they saw someone inside, they exchanged loving glances. Lee Dam grabbed his hand and told him she wanted to go home. But the fox stated that she would go home first, and he would immediately follow. But Lee Dam had just gone to the lake. The fox went straight into the flower shop. When he looked, he saw through it, daring to show this face in front of him, unless she wanted to steal his jade fox. The girl stopped pretending. The flower on his hand vanished immediately. Then this person stated that the sound passed through the air anyway. The jade fox was not with him. Then she vanished. Did the fox have a premonition? So the fox immediately teleported and returned home. He nervously looked around and drew Lee Dam back. He didn't mention the flower shop, but he did say that his first love was in the past. Now, all he wanted was to protect her. This made Lee Dam feel a lot more secure. However, she was unaware that danger was approaching. The fox would pick her up every day. However, because the exam was approaching, Lee Dam had to study extensively and search for documents. But it appeared that someone was secretly targeting her in the dark. The fox in the car was agitated and eager to find Lee Dam. Suddenly, he received a phone call informing him that, prior to his death, the captain mentioned seeing the murderer's face as an acquaintance. The fox looked through the car's windshield. Could it be that the murderer possessed the ability to transform like him? Lee Dam discovered that the fox had visited the library to look for her. She was very happy. She questioned why he had come here so urgently. He said he had come to see how she was doing. Then he examined Lee Dam's stomach. When he saw the red light, he smiled with hunger. Then he slowly touched her. Suddenly, the books fell off the bookshelf. When Lee Dam turned back, the fox had vanished. She had no idea that the man before her was an evil spirit transformed into a fox. How could the fox possibly pass up this opportunity? He squeezed the evil spirit's neck. In an instant, the evil spirit vanished before his eyes. On the contrary, he was scared. Indeed, the mountain god who oversees everything had appeared. This person reminded him and hoped that he would not become like her in the end. And hoped he'd see this girl as his last line of defense. The next day, the fox invited Lee Dam on a trip to help him transition into a human more smoothly. Lee Dam curiously stated that whenever she mentioned traveling, he always refused. Why has it changed this time? The fox stated that he now thinks clearly. Lee Dam was overjoyed, not realizing that the fox had another purpose. On the way, they took some beautiful photos together. They also walked through the land of wishes. Lee Dam began to wish for herself, regardless of what he wished for. However, she would soon burst into tears. So the two of them walked until the evening. This was not a particularly romantic scene. Lee Dam suggested that they return here next year. The fox remained stunned for a few seconds. He claimed that he had tricked her from the beginning. He knew how to get the pearl out. But because he was selfish and desired to become human, he required her essence to nourish the pearl. So he did not take it out. But now he wants to end it all. When she wakes up, she will have no memory of this time. After saying that, he walked in front of Lee Dam and took his jade fox from her. Lee Dam also cried tears of sadness. Lee Dam's life had returned to normal after she awoke. But as she was on her way to school, a familiar figure appeared in her mind. Damn it! Why did he let her remember? After a while, she sat on the ground and cried bitterly. At this point, the senior approached her with curiosity, asking what was wrong. He was concerned and asked if she was uncomfortable somewhere. He told her to sit beside her and rest. But the senior noticed Lee Dam's painful crying expression. And at this point, he felt a little relieved because Lee Dam had no longer rejected him as before. However, the two people were extremely close. The fox girl passing by noticed it. She was curious as to why Lee Dam was so close to someone born in the year of the tiger. So she only considered one possibility. But at this point, the fox's mind was preoccupied with Shadow's photograph of Lee Dam. At this point, the female fox approached him and asked if he had done anything that he regretted. The fox asked if she'd seen Lee Dam. The female fox asked him if he had decided to keep the jade fox in her body to feed it. So, he should not have become emotionally involved in the first place. Now that he's given up, he needs to find the next target because his time is almost up. But she wonders why he doesn't delete Lee Dam's memories. However, the fox claimed that he had erased all memories related to him. The fox girl began to suspect that his magic had weakened. Soon, the blue sky began to rain. Lee Dam couldn't help sighing. As expected, she had bad luck everywhere she went. At that point, an umbrella appeared above her head. Turning around, she noticed it was a fox, so she said nothing. Walking out of the umbrella, the fox called her and informed her that it was raining outside, to take the umbrella. But Lee Dam explained why she needed to hold a stranger's umbrella. A stranger said something that made the fox's heart ache. But that was not the case. Is that the outcome he seeks? But he hadn't expected the news to spread so quickly. Today, there will be a new young professor. That individual is a fox. Obviously, he came here because of Lee Dam. However, his aura drew many female students. Only Lee Dam realized that coming here was not a good idea. But she was afraid of what she would find. She had also met him in the elevator. But she couldn't help but enter the elevator. The atmosphere inside the elevator was strange. At this point, the senior asked Lee Dam if she had set a date for their last dinner meeting. The fox said nothing, but heard everything before. While waiting for Lee Dam to respond, the senior asked if today was fine. At this point, the elevator vibrated, and two people instinctively supported Lee Dam. Lee Dam looked at the fox and immediately pushed him away. On the contrary, she thanked the senior for assisting her, which made the fox nervous. After exiting the elevator, the senior took the opportunity to follow Lee Dam. But Lee Dam purposefully took him to a deserted location to inform him that the last text message about dinner was not sent by her. She suspected that the senior was the same. Lee Dam was in a bad mood that day, so he wanted to comfort her with a text message. But after thinking about it and not knowing how to send it, his naughty sister snatched his phone away. The younger sister then discovered that her older brother was texting with a girl 10 years younger. When the older brother retrieved the phone, he discovered that his younger sister had sent a text message inviting him to dinner with Lee Dam. Also, there is no distinction between refusing 100 and 1001 times. Indeed, while Lee Dam was eating, she noticed a message from his senior. This caused his younger brother next to him to sigh involuntarily. His older sister looked like this. Someone was still pursuing her. So the younger brother grabbed the phone and began playing around. When the younger brother saw the answer he was willing to give, he was overjoyed, demonstrating that the other person was also willing. The senior on the other side was ecstatic. He wanted to reward this untrustworthy sister. However, he did not expect to be disappointed. Lee Dam told him that she already had someone she liked. The senior felt his heart skip a beat. They were unaware that the fox outside the door had heard this. He secretly believed she already had someone she liked. Next, when they went to class, the seniors were always looking at Lee Dam. He secretly wondered who the person she liked was. However, in front of Lee Dam's eyes, she was only as close as Ji-jin. Is it possible that Lee Dam likes Jia-jin? That's no surprise. It's unworthy of her. He should be significantly stronger than him. But the fox lecturing on the podium noticed Lee Dam and Ji-jin's happy expressions. They were also astounded. He had the same thoughts as the senior, that Lee Dam liked Ji-jin. So the senior went home, showed Ji-jin's photo to his sister, and asked her who was the more attractive of the two of them. The younger sister saw it and told him to be honest. He was definitely more attractive than this guy. When the senior heard that, he smiled immediately, and he immediately took out a bill of money, instructing her to go buy something delicious to eat. Then he looked smugly in the mirror and declared that he was indeed very handsome. Lee Dam was drinking wine at the time to ease her grief over Ji-jin. She didn't expect Ji-jin's health to be so bad. Every time, he had to allow Lee Dam to carry him home. Indeed, after the fall, Ji-jin began running like crazy. He struck a car on the side of the road. Lee Dam had just seen it and died. Someone's mirror had broken. Lee Dam immediately yanked him up to clean up the mess. Suddenly, the person in the car who exited was a female fox. Before Lee Dam could react, another person exited the car, leaving him speechless. So she quickly helped Ji-jin up. Just as the fox was about to go up to help Lee Dam, she pushed him away, saying she could do it alone. She also apologized to the fox girl for the car damage. She would repay them. The following day, the school hosted a picnic with the female fox sitting next to Lee Dam. This reminded Lee Dam of the scene in which the fox walked down from her car in the middle of the night. She claimed she didn't believe anything was fake. But as soon as they arrived, the senior was about to confess his love for Lee Dam. At this point, Ji-jin appeared and interrupted the senior. He asked him if he was normal. Why was he always roundly damning? Ji-jin was also hostile to him. The two began arguing with each other. This scene was frequently witnessed by the female fox. She sympathized with the fox. The fox soon received a photograph of two men fighting. Looking into Lee Dam's eyes, the fox decided to go to war. The man only looked at the girl's photo and recited a spell over it. The girl approached him immediately. Suddenly, the fox approached her. He then clutched her face and kissed her. Lee Dam also had an instinctive response. At this point, his eyes abruptly changed color. The movements gradually became rougher. Lee Dam realized something was wrong and immediately told him to stop. Only then did the fox regain his senses. He focused on Lee Dam in front of him. He suddenly remembered what the fox girl had said as she prepared to transform into a human. The most craved thing was essence, and the feeling was one of hunger rather than love. Then he discovered the fox girl. He wanted to understand how to control it. The fox girl told him it was very simple. Just don't make contact. The fox was speechless. He had a difficult time convincing her to rejoin him. Less than a day had passed when the situation occurred again. When Lee Dam returned home, she was still blushing from the fox's kiss. The fox became dizzy the next day after being overly excited. His vision was blurred. He had no idea what was wrong with him, so he lay down to rest for a while. When Lee Dam arrived for class, she discovered that the professor was not feeling well today and had to take a break. Lee Dam was concerned and went to look for the fox. The fox's face was very pale. Lee Dam approached, concerned. While dreaming, the fox heard someone call her name. He took a slow look at Lee Dam. Lee Dam's eyes were captivating and touching right now. She suddenly felt an unbearable urge. He pulled her back. As he approached, he regained consciousness. Then he deliberately avoided Lee Dam, telling her to go out first. The female fox detected it and immediately drew Lee Dam out. Lee Dam stated bluntly, "I know you. You are also a fox, but you just wanted to know what was wrong with the fox." However, the fox girl informed her that even if she explained, humans like her would not understand. But one thing was certain. She didn't know what species they were. As soon as Lee Dam passed by the senior, he inquired about her health. This guy hadn't seen her for a few days. Why has she lost so much weight? But Lee Dam did not feel strange. So she went back and weighed herself. She was taken by surprise when she saw the number. Why did she lose 10 kilograms? So she reasoned that maybe she was being sucked out of her essence. She remembered the fox calling and him saying that it was best if the two of them kept their distance during this time. At the time, she felt somewhat understood. However, the fox informed her that regaining the Jade fox essence would not suffice. But if she was next to her, he would instinctively suck her essence. she would face danger. Thinking of this, she immediately called the fox. He said he was correct. They really needed to maintain their distance until a solution was found. Even though the fox was devastated to hear that, he expressed his understanding. When Lee Dam went to school the next day, he realized she was being followed. A man stared at her. Then, he pulled out a lipstick, claiming she dropped it. After Lee Dam took it, she was curious as to how he knew it was her. But the man answered her because he was constantly watching her. This strange atmosphere surprised Lee Dam even more. But the man was watching both her and the fox. He was also targeted at the time. The fox sensed the danger. The man simply waved a red thread connecting the two people together. Then he turned around and said to the fox, "This is what humans call fate." The fox became enraged and claimed that this had angered them. They also knew how to bite people in the same way dogs do. But as mountain gods who oversee human marriages, they don't care. This person abruptly vanished in front of him. But he didn't expect the outcome to be so miraculous. The senior's card was suddenly confiscated by his father. He needed to find the owner of the milk tea shop, who could help him out a little. The uncle clearly did not want to help. Suddenly, the uncle noticed the customer staring at the handsome senior without blinking, so he quickly put on the senior's uniform and asked if he wanted money, which was fine. First and foremost, he only recently discovered that he was recruiting employees to assist him with his work. How could a senior, who'd been spoiled since childhood, agree? He suddenly pulled the red string on his hand out. Lee Dam came to apply. The senior, with a serious expression, told him that he needed to accept her as a job. The uncle, an experienced individual, immediately understood. But at this point, the fox appeared concerned. That red thread wouldn't work well. The female fox explained to him, "The legend says that men and women are bound by a red string. No matter what happens, they will be destined for love." She asked him why he was concerned about the red string. The fox claimed he was only interested in cutting it. When the entire class went out to eat together in the evening, the senior expressed concern to Lee Dam about drinking less. This led the girl next door to believe that the two of them were dating. But Lee Dam maintained that she had a boyfriend. The senior's heart felt like it was suffocated. So he began drinking to escape his sadness. Even though he had drank until his head hurt, when he saw Lee Dam wanted to leave, he still wanted to look after her. But right now, his head hurt, and he couldn't bear it. Lee Dam told him to care for himself. But just as he was about to leave, a red thread drew Lee Dam back. She had no idea why she had suddenly returned to taking care of the senior. She asked if he wanted her to help him call a cab. However, the senior instinctively fell on her. Lee Dam's heart rate suddenly dropped a beat. However, a nearby fox witnessed this scene. Lee Dam followed suit, calling for a car to assist the senior. However, the senior took advantage of the opportunity to pull Lee Dam's hand back. But he was dragged away by the fox. The fox even kindly helped him close the door, allowing him to leave. Look at the red thread on Lee Dam's hand. The fox became increasingly concerned as he looked at it more closely. Lee Dam could also tell what the fox was thinking. She explained that it was simply that the senior drank too much. She reassured him not to worry. The fox reassured her that he was not a narrow-minded person. The next day, Lee Dam went to work. At this point, the fox called to inquire if she was tired. He would come and pick her up after she finished work. But Lee Dam, looking at the senior who had become her colleague, quickly stated that she could go home alone. But at this point, the senior spilled his drink. Lee Dam saw this and immediately hung up the phone. But when she hung up the phone, she asked the senior, "It's okay?" The fox heard this sentence quickly. After the two of them finished their work, the senior called Lee Dam and asked if she needed to be taken home. Lee Dam said there was no need. But the senior excused himself by saying he had a question about work for her. Lee Dam said, "So." As she walked away, a fox in the distance noticed the two people, which made his heart race even more. At night, the fox wanted to ask Lee Dam about his job. When the power went out in the house, Lee Dam tried to take a step forward but tripped and fell, accidentally touching the fox. At this point, the pearls suddenly jumped out and flew into her mouth. The fox was taken by surprise and had no idea what to do. Lee Dam reasoned to herself that the jade fox had swallowed it, so what else could she do? The fox instructed her to close her eyes. This is an excuse to recover the lost pearl. The two of them drew closer together as they worked to reclaim the pearl. So the two opened their hearts. Lee Dam claimed that it was a coincidence of fate that she worked at the same place as the senior. The fox also informed Lee Dam that the mountain god had tied a red thread between her and the senior. Now she could see the red thread, so she tried to pull it out, but couldn't. She wanted to rush to find scissors, but she was careless and took a wrong step, falling hard to the ground. The fox simply walked by and noticed Lee Dam injured. So he rushed up to assist her. He suddenly froze. Then a man appeared and told her that if she played with her fate, she would face serious consequences. Lee Dam wondered if her future was already predetermined. The mountain god stated that he could not predict everything in the future, but he could show her what happened in the future. Then Lee Dam closed her eyes and imagined all the sweet scenes between herself and the senior. At this point, the fox began to use his strength to escape the freeze. Then he helped Lee Dam get up. The mountain god reassured him that he was simply allowing her to dream. The mountain god reminded the fox that he was just an animal with no right to decide his own fate. In the evening, the fox appeared shy and clung to Lee Dam. He said he was terrified that someone else would steal her. Lee Dam told him not to worry because he was overthinking. She had no idea the fox was holding the red thread between her and the senior. But this vile red string possesses some magical power. Lee Dam returned from school the next day to find the fox waiting for her. She dashed forward, full of excitement. She was suddenly tripped by a red string. At this point, the senior frequently passed by and caught her. As soon as Lee Dam saw it, he instinctively backed away. She knew it had to be the effect of the red string. The senior offered to take her to the dinner party. However, Lee Dam claimed she was in someone else's car. When asked whose car she was in, the fox approached and said she was in my car. But the senior was curious as to why Lee Dam was in the professor's car. The fox couldn't explain. Lee Dam broke the deadlock and announced publicly that they were dating. But the senior said it was okay to date anyone except this man. Lee Dam didn't understand what the senior meant. Before the senior could finish speaking, the fox took Lee Dam's hand away. The more Lee Dam thought about it in class, the worse she felt. At this point, the teacher exited the fox's office. The fox was looking at her with a blooming face. Suddenly, he realized Lee Dam was standing behind him watching. He suddenly felt embarrassed and pushed the teacher's hand away. Then he did something unbelievable with the teacher. Lee Dam suddenly noticed that her boyfriend's eyes had changed color. The teacher in front of the fox then left, as if possessed by an evil spirit. Lee Dam noticed that the hair on her entire body stood up. She knew her boyfriend wasn't human, but she didn't expect him to do such a thing. Lee Dam pushed the fox who wanted to explain to her away. She despised him because he wanted essence and harmed others to get it. He left her extremely disappointed. However, the photograph of the fox in intimate contact with the teacher circulated widely. The female fox recognized the fox's purpose the moment she saw it. Just then, she noticed Lee Dam's depressed expression. She also guesses some of it. She didn't want to deal with too many things. But she still invited Lee Dam over. She used the excuse to invite Lee Dam to eat. Then she took her away. While eating, she began talking about helping the fox. This is not to blame him. He's a fox who's been practicing for centuries. It is very easy to do something that neither God nor the ghost are aware of. And he won't tell Lee Dam that the Jade fox will absorb all of her essence. But he did not. But this time, his jade began to turn green. Lee Dam was curious why it had turned green. The fox girl was surprised and stated that the red beads absorb human essence and turn green. Then they will transform into humans. Don't you know? However, once the fox met and got to know Lee Dam, his jade began to change color. Only half is green. That explains why the fox made such a mess this time around. Knowing the fox's ability to transform into a human, she immediately stated that she had an important task to complete. The most important thing, she said, was to find the fox. He admitted he was wrong. He wasn't concerned about her feelings. He declared that he would no longer act on impulse. But Lee Dam grabbed his hand, said, and instructed him to hand her the pearl to raise. However, the fox immediately refused. He stated that he did not want to see her essence hurt. Did she look down on my essence? However, the fox advised her to remain calm and avoid becoming overly excited. Lee Dam unexpectedly jumped up and hugged the fox's face, eager to suck the jade. The fox had no choice but to flee. As soon as the fox entered the office, Lee Dam hugged a tree and waited for the rabbit. The fox had simply been unable to use the vanishing technique again. The fox used the vanishing technique several times and became exhausted. At this point, the female fox passed by and noticed her fellow fox. She couldn't help but care for him, unaware that the fox's great tribulation was approaching. The fox girl arrived at Lee Dam to assist the fox in quickly developing into a human. She asked Lee Dam if she wanted to make the fox obey. Lee Dam was curious, but unsure how to proceed. The fox girl issued her a sentence. She must also become a fox. The ability to set traps is a fox's strength, so she approached Jade and asked for his help in setting up a trap. No, it's a play. He requested assistance in determining whether the fox girl had any plans for him. When Jade mentioned the fox girl, his heart softened. As a result, the two of them agreed and stated that what they did was correct. The two of them did their best to display their affection in front of everyone. The fox was uncomfortable when she saw them. When the female fox arrived and noticed their intimate appearance, she couldn't help but wonder if their friendship would cross the line. The fox girl was thinking about this while on her way. She never expected the trick she taught Dam to be used on herself. So she reassured herself that she would not be distracted by people's trivialities. Dam noticed the pink silk in her hand being pulled straight, unaware of how uncomfortable she felt when she saw the two of them being intimate in the evening. So she picked up the knife from the trash can and cut a line down. Suddenly, a strange scene occurred. She was transported in time and space. The man said she was brave for using this method to confront him. Dam wasn't afraid. She stated that she had the one she loved. She asked if he had too much free time, but the mountain god assured her that this was for the fox's good. She didn't wonder why his jade was only half green. The mountain god approached and explained that what causes jade to turn blue is not essence, but human nature. He let her be bound by the red string so she could feel and learn for herself what suffering is. Happiness, in essence, is cultivating the ability to overcome adversity. If all of these requirements are met, he will automatically become human. Before Dam could finish speaking, she was brought back to reality. But she eventually realized that what the fox lacked was humanity. So she risked her life to expand her knowledge, locate documents, and understand the scope of human nature. So that evening, she informed the fox that she had discovered a way to turn jade green. The fox reminded her that if she needed to replenish her supply of essence, she should return home, shower, and go to bed. Dam reassured him. He just needed to cooperate with her. The next day, as the fox was driving Dam, the car behind him suddenly accelerated. He immediately applied the brake. Then he asked, concerned, if Dam was all right. Dam immediately criticized him. She didn't specify that he wasn't allowed to swear. The fox stated that he would slowly fix it. Dam walked away, contemplating how to change his personality. Suddenly, the fox appeared. Dam said shyly, "See you at home later." What does that mean? The fox secretly believed it was over. It turned out she had made an appointment with a professor to gather information for her thesis. At home, her best friend had just heard that. She enthusiastically said they could go together. Dam saw this and immediately said, "Of course." The professor was grateful. The fox couldn't say anything more. The group soon arrived at the fox's house. Dam pretended to thank the professor for inviting them to their house. Then she went directly to the study room. But Jade was curious where Dam was going. Dam reacted immediately and realized she had been careless. So she immediately stated that regular people's study rooms were all over the place. She also asked the fox if her guess was correct. The fox claimed that she had excellent judgment. Dam's actions completely surprised the fox. The fox appeared pleased as they neared the end of their search for documents. He stated that everyone who found the documents was fine. The best friend sincerely thanked the professor. However, the fox stated that if there was nothing else to do, they would disperse. Dam had just learned that this trait was not acceptable, so she devised a way to say, "Rare." They went to the professor's house to play. How about staying and throwing a party? But she did not expect this method to fail. During the conversation, they discussed Dam's secret boyfriend. Nothing good. Dam unconsciously looked at the fox. Her ignorant best friend continued to scold her, claiming that the last time she broke up and cried bitterly, he didn't care about her. No surprise, she chastised him for being a cunning fox with no humanity. At this point, the fox listened and became increasingly angry, like boiling water. The fox tried to stop it, but they kept talking. Suddenly, the hot pot exploded. And I immediately knew who had done it. The man put the bag to one side. He then grabbed his girlfriend's hand. Then he scanned his surroundings. After confirming that there was no one, he got into another person's car. They both did something. The fox was asked a question and had no idea how to respond. The female fox laughed mockingly. It's understandable that he lived to be 999 years old and his eyes were blurred. She understood this statement. This made him embarrassed in front of Dam. So he protested with the strength he was now displaying. It was no problem for her to pull out in the middle of the road. Dam quickly changed the subject and told the fox to hurry home after noticing his outburst. At this point, the fox would not be calculating with the fox girl. The two people vanished again. They teleported home smoothly. Lee Dam questioned the recent failure. The fox explained that it was most likely because he was tired. Lee Dam did not think much. However, once Lee Dam left, the fox began to doubt himself. Logically, it was impossible. So he extended his hand, and the books on the shelf immediately flew to his hand. There was no issue with magic. Then he tried again with the flower pot. However, the flower pot moved only slightly before remaining stationary. Then he tried again. The female fox heard him calling and immediately approached him. It worked sometimes, but not always. Making the female fox was extremely surprised. She learned from the fox that his Jade was now 2/3 green. The fox girl immediately assumed that when she used the magic to teleport to Paris and returned, she would discover that she could no longer use magic. But when she was arrested for illegally entering the country, her magic returned to normal. And when she returned a few days later, she had changed into a human. Thus is his current situation. It is entirely focused on the process of becoming human. The fox appears to be about to transform into a human. At night, the fox was unable to contain his joy. He wanted to share this good news with Lee Dam. Lee Dam inquired as to what constituted a good thing. He noticed himself in the glass before he finished speaking. His hands became translucent. His heart was suddenly poured with cold water. Perhaps he was nearing the end. Lee Dam misinterpreted what he said as a statement about his impending transformation into a human. She enthusiastically hugged the fox. But the fox said nothing. At night, the fox began to feel unusual. He said he might be about to transform into a human. So he was a little scared of the cold. Then he crawled right into Lee Dam's bed. He even pretended to wait for her before sleeping with her. Lee Dam realized he was playing a trick again. He grabbed her before she could finish preparing. The next day, the fox invited her to skip school and go outside to play. Lee Dam stated that it suited her very well. They took beautiful photos together. Then they played every game a couple should play. However, as the two of them walked around the lantern house, Lee Dam fell down by accident. The fox tried to pull her back, but then he appeared on the main road. He looked at his hand, which had become transparent. Then he examined his jade fox. It was broken. He realized he didn't have much time left. Lee Dam was still wondering where the fox had run. Someone suddenly hugged her. Lee Dam turned around, assuming it was a fox. She was furious and demanded to know why he had vanished so abruptly. This joke wasn't funny at all. The fall caused her a great deal of pain. However, the fox still did not tell her the truth. But her mother, Lee Dam, said he would return in a few days. Lee Dam had to return home and stay for a few days. Lee Dam let go, and the fox's heart felt hollowed out. He wasn't sure if he'd see Lee Dam again. So he found the fox girl first. He thanked her for always thinking about him. Even though nearly 1,000 years had passed, he had yet to become human. He sincerely thanked the fox girl for her assistance. The independent fox girl abruptly stopped him from talking. She didn't want to be told goodbye like that. This time, the fox wanted to ask her for one last favor. This was something only she could do. After returning, the weak fox sat on the ground. He cried helplessly. He wasn't afraid of disappearing. He just couldn't bear leaving Lee Dam. This was the most heartbreaking time he had cried in over 900 years. But as Lee Dam reflected on it, she realized something was wrong. Suddenly, she noticed the photo of the fox on the table. It was gradually disappearing. She sensed something was wrong. But now the fox was preparing to make a will. Lee Dam summoned the fox while frantically running to his home. She asked the fox if there was anything else at the end of the road. The fox realized he couldn't hide it anymore. But Lee Dam was concerned. She paid no attention to the car rushing towards her. When she discovered that her entire body was stunned, the fox knew Lee Dam was in danger. Someone hit her right now. Then she was pushed aside. She raised her head to look and saw the fox lying on the ground, having been hit by a car. At this point, the fox looked silently at Lee Dam. But he lacked strength. He could only fall into hopeless tears. Lee Dam rushed to the fox's side. However, he closed his eyes with no strength. At that point, his body began to fade away. Lee Dam dashed to touch the remaining warmth. She cried bitterly as she looked at the fox's unfinished will. Her heart was full of mixed emotions. She looked at her phone and saw a photo of the two of them together. She abruptly realized something was wrong. The image of him from the photo that had vanished was now clearly visible. Could the fox still exist in this world? She was sure the fox would return. She decided to stay at the fox's house and wait for him. Day after day passed. The fox appeared to be focused solely on business. However, he remained absent from season to season. One day, a female fox came looking for Dam. She claimed she had received a mandate from the fox. The fox knew he was about to disappear. So she told her that if she saw Dam in pain, she would use the Jade fox to erase his memories. He hoped she could forget about him and live for herself. When Dam saw the fox girl take out the Jade, she stated that even if she was sad for the rest of her life, she would not want to erase the memories. The fox was currently in another time and space. He appeared to hear Dam crying. He also kept crying. But one day, when Dam awoke, there was someone behind her, quietly looking at her. Dam was doing well. The fox girl in the distance had a sudden premonition. Dam was choking and sobbing, speechless. The fox girl was so excited that she wanted to cry. They couldn't help but cry loudly. They'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. After so many difficulties, they both wore black. Then they clasped 10 fingers together. They didn't expect to see so many people lined up. Dam instructed him to quickly cast a spell to get past the crowd and obtain the certificate. The fox reminded her that now that he was human, he could no longer perform magic. Then he asked her not to criticize him. Dam assured him that even if she criticized him, her mother would not do so. It turned out that the last time her mother returned home, using Dam's delivery address, to meet the fox, the two of them appeared to have been apprehended. She felt extremely embarrassed. Her mom was a gangster. She wanted to lie but couldn't. Dam could only ask the fox to cast a spell that erased her mother's memories. The fox listened obediently to Dam's words. Then his eyes started to change color. He wanted to erase the memory right now. However, her mother's will was unexpectedly strong and unaffected. He hadn't expected to meet someone so stiff. Dam also learned that her mother had not changed. The fox shook his head and declared it useless. The mother inquired again whether they lived together. The fox realized he could no longer hide it. So he proactively admitted that Dam did indeed live at his house, but nothing had happened to cause her concern. This would not happen in the future. Dam was immediately disappointed, but she hadn't expected her mother to be so generous. Not only did she not become enraged, but she also praised them for being so honest, which made her very happy. Dam sent her mother away, and her mother whispered a word, hoping to use her full strength. And she was extremely pleased with her son-in-law. Dam asked the fox if he wanted to go greet his mother-in-law right now. The fox stated that he wanted to return home to complete important tasks. The two of them eventually overcame their difficulties and had a perfect ending. This marks the end of the film. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like so we can continue to make better videos.